I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who would do something unforgivable. But I did. And the worst part? I can't even justify it. My name is Claire, and for 4 years I was in a relationship with a man named Daniel, the most patient, thoughtful, and quietly kind person I'd ever met. He wasn't flashy or overly romantic. He didn't post about us online or plan dramatic surprises, but he was steady, dependable, safe. At first, that steadiness felt like everything I'd ever wanted after years of toxic dating. But over time, I started mistaking it for boredom. While he was working late hours building his small graphic design business, I was scrolling through social media, comparing our quiet life to couples who seemed endlessly exciting. And that's where Ethan came in. Ethan worked in the same office building where I did. Confident, funny, and effortlessly charming, the kind of man who could make a room turn toward him just by walking in. He noticed me, complimented me, remembered small details Daniel often missed. One late evening, after too many glasses of wine at a coworker's birthday, I crossed a line I couldn't uncross. It was one night. Just one. But that night turned into guilt that sat in my chest like a stone. Daniel didn't notice right away. He was too busy handling a major project deadline. But guilt changes a person. It seeps into your tone, your eyes, your body language. I became distant, defensive, short-tempered over the smallest things. He'd ask simple questions. Are you okay? Did something happen? And I'd snap. I told myself it was because I was tired or stressed. But deep down, I knew I was building a wall between us out of fear. 2 weeks later, the wall cracked. Daniel came home earlier than usual. I was sitting at the dining table pretending to read, but my mind was far away. He walked over, set down his keys, and said quietly, "Claire, can we talk?" I felt my throat tighten. About what? He looked calm. Not angry, not suspicious, just calm in a way that scared me more than shouting ever could. "I think you're hiding something," he said. "And I need you to be honest with me." For a moment, I froze. Every excuse I'd rehearsed disappeared. His eyes were steady. No accusation, just quiet heartbreak already forming, I confessed. Every detail, every mistake, every lie. When I finished, he didn't interrupt. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't even look shocked. He just nodded slowly and whispered, "Thank you for telling me." That was it. I waited for the explosion, for yelling, anger, tears. But instead, he stood up, walked into the kitchen, poured himself a glass of water, and said, "I think I understand now." I didn't. I didn't understand how he could be that calm. I begged him to talk, to shout, to do something. He simply said, "Claire, I've loved you enough to know when something's gone. I saw it in your eyes weeks ago. I just needed to hear it." Those words hit harder than any scream ever could. That night, he packed a small bag. No drama, no threats. Just a man quietly accepting a reality he didn't choose. He paused at the door, looked at me one last time, and said, "I hope you find whatever excitement you were looking for. I just wish it hadn't cost us this." Then he left. The silence that followed was unbearable. Every corner of the apartment still smelled like him. The faint scent of his cologne, the sound of his keys that used to jingle in the bowl by the door. I told myself he'd call. That maybe he'd come back once the shock wore off. But the days passed, then weeks. No message. No contact. Ethan, the man I'd thrown everything away for, stopped talking to me the moment he realized I wasn't as carefree as he thought. The thrill was gone. I was left alone, with guilt as my only company. But then, a month later, Daniel reached out. Not a call. Just a simple text. "Can we meet for coffee?" "There's something I want to say." My heart raced. I didn't know if it was hope or fear, but I went. When I walked into that cafe, my hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. Daniel was already there, sitting by the window with a cup of black coffee. Same order as always, same quiet posture, but something about him felt different. Lighter somehow, as if he'd put down a weight I was still carrying. He looked up, gave me a polite half-smile, and gestured toward the empty seat. "Thanks for coming," he said softly. I sat down, fumbling with my bag, my heartbeat too loud in my ears. "Daniel, He stopped me gently. "Let me go first, please." I nodded, biting my lip. He took a slow sip of his coffee and said, "I've been thinking a lot since that night. About us, about what happened, about how I reacted." My throat tightened. I didn't know what he was going to say, and part of me didn't deserve to hear it. "I realized," he continued, "that for a long time, I made our relationship too comfortable. I tried so hard to keep peace that I stopped paying attention to what you actually felt. I thought being steady was enough." I blinked in confusion. "Daniel, none of that was your fault," he smiled faintly. "Maybe not, but I needed to understand my part in it. Not to take the blame, but to learn something before I move on." The words "move on" sliced through me like ice. He wasn't here to talk about fixing things. He was here to say goodbye. "Daniel, I don't want to defend what I did," I said, tears burning at the back of my eyes. "But please believe me, it wasn't about you not being enough. It was about me being selfish, restless, stupid." He interrupted, not unkindly. "I know, and I believe you. That's why I'm not angry anymore. That stopped me cold." "Not angry?" He leaned forward slightly. "I spent the first 2 weeks after leaving feeling like a failure. But then I realized, you can't lose something that's already gone. You just wake up one day and accept it." His voice was calm, almost peaceful. "You see, Claire, forgiveness isn't always about reconciliation. Sometimes it's just about freeing yourself from someone else's mistake." I couldn't hold it anymore. Tears slipped down my face. "So that's it? You forgive me and we just walk away?" He looked at me for a long time, then said, "I don't know if forgiveness has to mean walking together again. Maybe it just means we stop walking backward." I wanted to argue, to tell him I could change, that I'd learned. But deep down, I knew he was right. Whatever we had, I'd broken it beyond repair. After a moment of silence, he slid something across the table, a small white envelope. My name written in his familiar handwriting. "What's this?" I asked. "Just something I wrote. You don't have to open it now." I held it in my shaking hands as he stood up. He gave me one last look, eyes soft but steady. "Take care of yourself, Claire." And then he walked out. I sat there long after he was gone, staring at the empty chair across from me. When I finally opened the envelope, there was a single page inside. A note written in blue ink, the way he used to leave messages on the fridge. "I don't hate you. I don't wish you pain. But I hope someday you understand what it feels like to be loved completely, and to not notice until it's gone. You were my calm after chaos. I only wish I'd been your peace too. Daniel." I read it over and over until the words blurred through my tears. That was the moment I realized what true strength looks like. It isn't in holding on or in punishing someone for breaking you. It's in walking away with grace when everything inside you is screaming to stay. Months have passed since then. I moved apartments, changed my routine, tried to fill the silence with noise, but nothing feels the same. Sometimes I see couples holding hands in grocery stores and think about how Daniel used to do that, quietly, absent-mindedly, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. People say guilt fades, that time heals. But some mistakes don't disappear. They just turn into lessons you carry. And mine is simple. When someone loves you with consistency instead of chaos, don't mistake it for boredom. Daniel taught me that love isn't fireworks. It's the steady flame that doesn't go out when things get dark. I only wish I hadn't learned it after burning everything down. Now, when I think of him, I don't imagine reconciliation. I imagine peace, his peace. The kind he always gave, even when I least deserved it. And that's what truly left me speechless. Not his silence, not his calm, but the fact that even after everything I did, his last gift to me was dignity.